I'm gonna take this over here.
Hey, everybody. So I wanted to come into the office and do this on the foreclosure market and what's being predicted as far as the upcoming foreclosures, because many of you have noticed that we have seen not any kind of volume on the market, and they just trickle in, or they had been just trickling in. When we know that the volume predicted across the country is actually a 700% increase in foreclosures. So in preparation for the releasing of the foreclosures, and I would probably say, based on the numbers that I received at a training last week, that the numbers in our specific areas in the center of the state here, the increase, the York, Adams, Lancaster counties averaged probably 50 to 60 foreclosures a month. It's predicted to go up 15% in our areas. So it's probably going to hit that increase to probably 70, 75 listings potential in a month. So I wanted to get you all prepared for how to handle the foreclosure market. As many of you know, this has been my niche market for 30 years. I actually had the listing contract for the HUD contract for 17 years for 32 counties. You looked up. So my expertise has always been in this area, and I have been very blessed with the gift of selling foreclosures and doing trainings like this to help others understand the market of foreclosures. So I want to get you all signed up. I want to give you the sites that are free sites that you can get yourself signed up on. You can find the foreclosures on your own end and have the guidance of us in the office. Currently, though, right now, I'm going to give you the auction sites, because typically right now that is where we are finding the foreclosures, or the majority of foreclosures that are being listed. They're throwing them on the auction sites first. So the first auction site is auction.com. And if you go on to auction.com and check out the local listings in whatever county that you're in, you're going to be able to see two things. You're going to see one where auctions are actually happening right now, and there are a few on there. You will also see the auctions that are upcoming for the sheriff sales. And they give the date of the upcoming auctions for that.
I'll move you over here. So
Okay.
you can...
I keep walking around, making sure everybody can hear me. And I'm also, if I'm tilting in, I'm also letting people into the room. My last 3 transactions for the rehabs that I have done have been off of auction.com. One thing that you need to be aware of when you look on there is, if you pull up a specific property, it will say, one, if there is a commission offered to a potential agent. And it'll, when you scroll down on the page for a specific property, at the bottom of the page, it'll give you that information. It will also give you information if you can access the property, if they think that the property is occupied or not. And even if the property isn't occupied, they typically click yes, that it's occupied. And then the other thing that you really want to pay attention to is if they're charging a buyer's premium or not. Because if they're charging a buyer's premium, it's typically 5% buyer's premium on the auction properties. So you definitely want to know if you're representing an investor, you want to register yourself and you need to have your investor also register your name. That way you're both getting notifications when the bids are occurring. So if I'm bidding on an auction and I bid 50,000 and Justin bids 52, I'm notified that I've just been outbid. So then it gives me the option to go back in and keep increasing my bids. This is what I'll also tell you on the auction sites, and fine print it says, the auction company has the right to bid on behalf of whoever the seller is. So you could actually not be bidding against another person, but you could be bidding against the system.
So if you're bidding and you're notified that you've been outbid,
Mhm.
does it also tell you that you have the winning bid?
If you,
You can
yes,
see what the highest bid is.
that's correct. And,
Okay.
and the only thing that you'll see is like, it'll give the bids, it'll give the current bid, and it'll give like initials of the individual. It doesn't give names or whatnot, but
Sure.
it does give initials. Let's see, somebody's got a question. Oh, hi, can all be muted by chance? I don't know if that's,
See if I can mute all.
is there a back? So the other thing when you're bidding on the auction properties is you need a current proof of funds, has to be within 30 days. And the day that you get notification if you won the bid or not, you have to upload that into the system or your investor. So if I cross over a little bit here is because typically I am the investor. So they require my POF to be updated right away.
Question. You mentioned that it'll tell you whether a commission's paid on that. Do they typically pay commission on investor purchases? So if you are an agent and you are purchasing a property for yourself, would you expect to collect a commission on that?
No, but in my case, I get it, I still get an agent to represent me. So somebody earns a commission from the
Right.
transaction.
And is there a cost to enroll in most of these sites, or are they free access sites?
Okay, so some of the auction ones, you can register and not secure your bidding with a credit card. And I'll get to the one that's coming up that actually you have to secure. They release it if you're not the winning bidder, they release it. Your credit card, they only hold it to make sure that individuals scamming or trying to scam the process aren't like coming in and just initiating random bids and, or jumping out, because it's a lot of time and effort involved in the process for the companies that place these properties up on the auction sites to follow through, because they're dealing with auctions throughout the country.
So if they hold your credit card, is that just proof that you're a serious person? I mean, they don't require you to have an amount of credit on it, would they?
They actually will tell you what the deposit is. It's typically $1,000 deposit. So they'll and you'll see that as a pending charge on
Okay.
your credit card statement. And then if you're not the winning bidder, then it's released.
And then you also mentioned they'll notify, or they'll note whether or not the property is occupied. Do you have the ability to tour these properties if they're not occupied?
It'll actually say on each individual listing on the auction sites, whether you can enter into the properties or not. So there are these last properties that I actually were awarded. We could not. We walk the exterior of the properties, but the one in Harrisburg, though, I will tell you this, the one in Harrisburg that I just sold, there was a thousands of dollars lien for sewer and trash against the property. And they wanted me to accept the water reading as whatever it may have been, without anybody having an accurate reading. So if I hadn't been able to get a water meter reading, I would have been responsible for what the billing statement on that reading was.
Which can be
Could have been,
thousands.
it could have been thousands. That's correct.
I mean,
Hmm.
like 10,000. I
Yeah.
mean, I've seen significant.
Right. Yep. So you need to be aware of those kind of things in dealing with it that you can potentially, run into. The other auction sites that I want to give you are, it's hubzu.com.
If there are tenants in the property, do they come with?
Tenants come with the property, Michael just asked. Yes, they do. So you are absolutely responsible for the process to get them out. And then whatever transpires with whatever they leave or any kind of damage that they do while,
Cash for keys.
yes, what you try, yes. So hopefully you all know what cash for keys is, where you try and entice them to take X amount in exchange for the keys and give them X amount of time to vacate the property instead of having to go through the whole process of the eviction process. Next site is xome.com. And there are auctions. It'll give you the start date for the auctions and it will give you the end dates for the ones that are currently occurring. I watch these sites all the time. You can put in areas that you're interested in to see what's happening, what's available. It gives you days on market. It gives you the countdown to how much time is left for each individual listing. I set it up where I get notifications that it sends me a text message for the countdowns because I want to make sure if there's a specific property I'm watching, I want to know where the bidding results are. And if I'm still interested in bidding on a particular property or if it's gone above what I wanted to place on that property. And one thing, you need to be really cautious when you're setting your limits is don't exceed your limit. Like if you have it at a limit and you think maybe one more bid will do it, don't get yourself caught because that's why people do auctions. They do it because they create the energy going on and hopefully you have two like live bidders that are going against each other and it creates that like
Auction fever.
it does, absolutely. Yep, I've seen it over and over again. The last auction site that I'm going to give you is servicelinkauction.com. So those are the 4 primary auction sites that the banks, credit unions, government uses to place their properties up before they may be potentially listed on our MLS.
What was that last one?
It's servicelinkauction.com. Sure. Anybody have any questions on the auction process? So the other thing is most of the auction sites require typically 5% down. So if you are the winning bidder and I'm placing 5% down and I decide I don't want that property, I just forfeited whatever my deposit was. If they offer a commission to an agent, that's the question up. It is paid by whichever agency is the seller. So you have to like make sure on each auction site, when you click on that property and it gives you a breakdown with pictures and it gives you info on the property, it will also tell you whether there is a commission offered. So you could be working with an investor and the auction site doesn't offer a commission. So in that case, you can do one of two things. You can talk to whoever your investor is about potentially paying you a commission, on that property. or you can do it as the favor for them, thinking that they're going to have an agreement with you for the listing on the property. Anybody else have any other questions in regards to auction properties? So when I did the foreclosure training last week in Delaware as part of my continuing ed, one of the biggest short sale companies in the state of Delaware actually did the training, and it was really a great training. It talked about what's happening with what happened during COVID and what's happening now after COVID, and what's happening with all the potential listings that will be coming up with the properties. One of the biggest things that individuals did in accepting forbearance is sellers or the consumer thought that forbearance was forgiveness, and that they were basically getting free money from the government in exchange for not paying their mortgage. And then when the forbearance period was lifted, they're finding out that the lenders were calling it due. So it ranged from initially it ranged from 6-month period, and then it got extended out to 12-month period, and then it went to 18 months. So what the government then had lenders do or try and work out with the individuals with the whole forbearance. One thing is they did loan modifications or offered to do loan modifications. They tacked it then on at the end of the mortgage period. So the individuals could then basically, if you're having $100,000 mortgage, you're now at 115,000. What surprised me and what I can tell you is though, if you were getting a listing on one of those properties and their payoff statement says $100,000, there was no record, but it's now in first position. That $15,000 that was in forbearance went into the first position. So they technically owe $115,000, not $100,000. So what's happening with agents across the country when they're like going to list these properties, they're finding out that they ran it based on the payoff number that the individuals gave them, not on the actual amount for them to get out of the property. So we're finding out in a lot of cases that there is not enough equity again in the properties for the individuals, which are now turning these properties potentially into short sales. So the recent increase in FHA delinquent mortgages over the COVID period rose 15% on top of what was previously occurring. So it's a lot of properties, but one thing is make sure when you are potentially listing a property that had FHA financing on it, that you get the accurate payoff number from the lender in regards to the payoff. Don't go by the credit statement that they are potentially providing for you, because a lot of individuals aren't even remembering about the loans that they're putting on top of that. The other thing is in the MLS, when you're looking for our foreclosures in the counties in the MLS, you want to scroll to the bottom of the MLS and you're going to see sale type. When you see REO on sale type, that means real estate owned. That means that a third party person owns that property, not the individual listed potentially on the tax records. So I know when I scroll through there every day and I see some listings in there, and it actually is giving individuals who have rehab properties and they're mistakenly putting them in there. You want to make sure that when you're relisting a property, that it goes in there as a standard sale and not an REO. I know an agent had, not from this office, not from Iron Valley, see, because y'all like are getting good training. But an agent had placed somebody's property in the MLS and they marked it as an REO, and it went out on Zillow and everything, and it was showing this property as a foreclosure. So the seller of the property was getting calls from individuals that they knew saying, you know, are you having issues financially? And they were like, had no clue what they were talking about. And it was because their property was showing as a foreclosure. So make sure that you have that right. So here are the government sites for foreclosure listings. The first one is HUDhomestore.com. HUDhomestore.com. And if you put anything into any of these, when you're typing it into your search bar, and it reroutes you to anything where it wants you to pay a fee, these sites I'm giving you are all free. So it rerouted you trying to get you to sign up for something that isn't one of the government sites, because the government doesn't charge you for going on their sites to see their foreclosure process or properties. So the HUD Home Store is the FHA foreclosures. At the top of the page, you're going to see where you can register to be notified about listings in your area. And you can also, what you want to make sure that you do is also register yourself as a potential agent to sell the property. So I'm giving you all this information now. If you have an interest in selling foreclosures, is that you're all set for when the market does open up and the volume of listings come, that you are ready to roll with it and can take advantage of the opportunity that's going to be presenting itself, because there's going to be a lot of opportunities with these properties. So I'm just trying to get you to get a jump start on the marketplace.
Do we know how and when that's gonna be?
They're actually saying that the release is going to be coming in the beginning of the new year.
Okay.
I did click on yesterday in York and Adams counties and whatnot, and I believe that there were 10 listings listed in there, which had gone up. There had been running only 2 and 3 there for a while. The majority of listings in there, though, when you look under who the owner is banks and credit unions. So there's not too many of the government foreclosures listed in the MLS yet. So you know that when it opens up, it's really going to open up with a lot of good opportunity. And those of you who have the first time home buyers that missed out through this process, is going to be a great time for these individuals to potentially get a property off of this kind of market. Anybody have any questions so far? Next one's going to be your homepath.com. Those are your Fannie Mae foreclosures, homepath.com.
Now, those home path properties, those ones are like a really good opportunity for an actual owner occupant, right? Compared to a lot of these others.
So and Michael had asked earlier, I saw the first home path there for a while. The Fannie Mae foreclosures were actually going in and fixing up the properties and then putting them on the market. And actually offering the buyer like financing through them, which was in my opinion, a better way to potentially use their mortgage individual and make the transaction really easy as far as the flowing process, if they were extending that out. But they were fixing them up and recently there was a new listing and it was the first time that they threw it on the market as an as is. So I think with the volume of properties that are going to be coming, that I would imagine it'll be really difficult for them to do the repairs necessary to try and recoup, because what they're trying to do is recover as much as they can.
And in a past life, I worked with some agents, who repped a lot of foreclosures, and they said that, these asset managers had a specific formula. And if they could invest up to 15% and clear that, then they would do it.
Right,
If it was over that, then it was a no-go.
right.
But that was whenever there was a higher volume and banks were, and there wasn't the demand. So they had to do that to move the properties.
Yeah.
Like right now, because of the demand, it's probably not going to be necessary. Is that what you're thinking, or?
I am thinking that.
Okay.
And the other thing is on the FHA, it just reminded me on the FHA foreclosures. The government will pay 3% of closing is the max that they'll pay on their FHA foreclosure. They'll also pay the 3% real estate commission. When you're asking, because everything is internet based, so when you are asking for closing help and you put in there 3%, it's automated. So it figures out your numbers and it doesn't allow you to increase the numbers. So if somebody's saying, well, I would like 5%, it doesn't allow you to change anything because that's the way that the system is programmed. Are there certain loan types that cannot purchase a foreclosure? Margaret, it's actually going to be based on the condition of the property. So if the condition of the property would not meet standards, so when you're looking at, say an FHA, we're back on the FHA and on the HUD site. And if it is offered with the 203B financing, that means that they will insure that property again with FHA. If it's listed as 203K financing, they're telling you that the property has more than $5,000 worth of repair. And then if it's just cash or conventional, something is transpiring with the property where they don't want to insure it any longer. So I think that was it on that. So that answers that question right there. The next property site is www.vrmproperties, properties.com.
You
And-
said VRM?
vrmproperties.com, and that is your VA foreclosures. VA will also sell to any individual. And all of these sites do typically give, all the foreclosure sites typically do give priority to the owner occupant purchaser. So you need to really read the agent comment section. If it's in the MLS, read that section to see if the priority period is. Some are 7 days, some are 15 days. It is now saying even on some of the foreclosures that they will not look at any of the offers for 7 days. So it's sitting there showing 7 days and then they're taking whatever offers are coming in. So make sure that you read the comment section because that's where everything tells you. So your buyer, so you're well informed, so you can, if it's an investor bidder or an owner occupant bidder, they know timetable wise in anticipation if they write it that they're not going to get a response right away. Your next site is your home steps, homesteps.com. And those are your Freddie Mac listings. remember on all of these sites as an agent, commissions are paid to sell any of their foreclosures. And you have to be registered because everything pretty much now, and I shouldn't say everything pretty much now, is internet based. So you have to be signed up. So at the top of all of the pages, if you are not registered on them, you need to get yourself registered. Other than the HUD Home Store, which you'll need Justin's, the NAID number to register. The other sites, you just typically need your license information, and actually some of them now require you to upload it into the system, so they have it. And they also make you sign off on for commission-based purposes, 1099. So you have to fill out a form to be paid. Justin, can you give the NID number now? Can you pull that?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay,
here and I'll
he's-
give it
he's gonna
before
pull-
the,
Okay, so he's gonna give that to us, so we'll make sure that you have that.
No, I'm gonna read it.
So our next site is resales, resales dot USDA.gov. And those foreclosures are our USDA properties. Those were the ones that were offered 100% financing to potential purchasers.
Again, that's resalesUSDA.net.
.gov.
.gov.
Yep. And did you see how Justin just asked me? This is a prime example. If you put .net in there instead of .gov, there is probably a site that is not free.
That will take you to Namibia.
Yeah. So what they do is go around all of it to try and get people to sign up. So
Helen,
yes,
you did say resales.usda.gov.
yes.
Okay.
So it's resales, resales .usda.gov.
Everybody ready for your, and I am gonna send out an email
Did it come up?
recapping
Should come up.
most of these websites and including the NAID. Just to be helpful. TTN VLL 2190. And the fun part of that is HUD will only let you register one broker license number. So the broker license number that you're going to want to use is RM 424629. Just to keep it simple for you.
Oh, and if we switched brokerages,
Yes,
since we were registered under HUD Home Sales, which I was,
yes.
is it easy to fix that, or do you have to?
Yeah, you can log on to the system and then edit your profile.
Okay, just edit
Yeah, I
this?
had to
Okay.
do that previously. So, and we want to make sure, because I am not updated either with Iron Valley's number now. So if you had been previously registered with Iron Valley with the old ownership, you have to update and make sure that the system recognizes you now. Any other questions? So we put that in there information wise. So the other thing that I want to talk to you about is when you're reading on some of the foreclosures that are currently listed in there, you are going to see platforms that are used. And by platforms, I mean that they're electing to go with the internet base for accepting offers. So some of the foreclosure sites, you will see that ResNet, RES.net is where the property may be listed for a bank or a credit union. And you need to also register on that platform because most of the listings that I pulled up yesterday to see what was happening have all the platforms in there. So you need to be familiar with these platforms. And one thing I will tell you with the platforms, there's typically, they list it as a technology fee. So it's anywhere from the most expensive I think I saw yesterday was $250. So it is saying that when you check that box, that if you're the winning offer on a transaction, that you agree on the HUD one, that fee will be paid. So it typically is $150 up to $250. And if you don't check the box, you can't place the offer.
And these platforms, they're like a portal for uploading documents and communicating,
That's correct.
kind of like our Qualia, but with foreclosures.
Yep, yep. And that's really the platforms now are really how all the offers are going. Everything is going electronically. And remember, the other thing is, it's their own documents. So let's just say that you receive an offer on a HUD property. They email you the contract package. So your contract package comes to the agent. And then you have within X amount of time, which is typically 48 hours, to get them the contract package back. So one thing is to be aware, everything is done by email. So even on these sites that I'm giving you, everything is coordinated through email. And I don't know any of the foreclosure processes here that I'm giving you that uses the standard real estate contract. Everyone has their own agreement of sale that they're actually using. So some of the sites that I'm giving you will give sample contracts so you can get a little familiar with the wording of these contracts in there. You definitely, if you're not used to selling them, educate yourself because you definitely want to be familiar with it. And I'm not saying things to scare people off because I'm doing this training for you as an avenue because I think that it's a great niche market. It has done many blessed things for me over the years, and I just want to make sure that our offices are prepared and can take full advantage of the opportunities that are going to be opening. Because you have to remember, we're in 4.5 years of, prior to COVID, the properties that were already going into foreclosure didn't get listed. Then COVID hit, so you have another 2.5 years where properties didn't get listed. So they're basically setting on 4.5 years of foreclosed properties.
Why were they held back?
It just, I don't know, it just felt that way. You know, the processes stopped prior to, the sheriff's sale stopped, so everything's been sitting. So here's what, you know, if those individuals left the properties at that point in time, and they're sitting vacant, you know, they probably did not get out to winterize the properties in time. So you're going to have to make sure that if it's a house that doesn't have your plumbing on, that you may be running into whatever extended plumbing issues because of the time periods that we're now involved in. And the other thing is the individuals that still may have be in the properties that stop paying. Here's where I don't know what's going to happen with the crisis that's going to happen in the United States, because all of these people with these kind of increases and they stop paying, where are they going to go? Where are they going to move to? If they stop paying their mortgage, they were getting a forbearance. They used their money on not making any kind of payments to the lenders. Who's going to want to rent to them? So if they're still sitting in properties and they have to get out, where are they going to go? So it's going to be something else that, you know, we as citizens are going to be dealing with, because there's definitely going to be an issue for these people trying to get into housing. And I think that's another reason where they're trying to figure out how they're going to roll out all the listings that, because it's not just about rolling out the properties, it's everything else that's going to be attached to it. So your next platform that's used is Offer, OFFER, Submission, SUBMISSION.com. Offersubmission.com.
Is that a big one for the FHAs for a while? That sounds familiar.
It's actually not for the FHAs,
No.
just no. No.
Hmm.
The FHAs currently are on auction.com.
Mhm.
And if they don't sell at auction.com, then they'll be listed on the regular marketplace.
Okay.
Your next platform is www.proffers.com. Propoffers.com.
These are all just the platforms. you're
These are the platforms that, when I went through yesterday to get as much updated information as I could, all of these platforms were found on a site and are currently being used.
Mhm.
So they are attached to a property that I found as of yesterday. And then your last platform. So here was a thing that the individual agent placed in there. In his comment section for the agents, he put in there Dispo Solutions. And I was like, what is Dispo Solutions? You need to place your offer through Dispo Solutions, and gave you no other information. So I was like, all right, so are you going to answer the question for all of these agents trying to figure out where it is that they're going to try and place their offer for on this foreclosure? Because you just threw a wrench into potentially saying, I don't want to deal with it because I have no idea what that is. So the site, if you see Dispo Solutions, you want reo.exceleras.com. That's the site where you will find whatever that foreclosure may be, if an agent uses that terminology on you.
You must wanted to buy that property yourself.
Or sell that property,
Or sell it,
it's a double dip.
Yeah.
So remember that when you're trying to reach out to different agents and they aren't responding to you, it's a double dip. They get their listing side and they're also trying to get the buyer side.
Right.
So this is why, you need to be your own resource or come in-house, and if you have questions or whatnot, you got a great support system here, a lot of knowledge on these properties that we will absolutely give you the support that you need if you're trying to sell one of these properties. So don't give it up because you're frustrated. What is the name again? So that one was reo.exceleras.com.
Just one L.
Just one L. Anybody else have any questions? So one of the current properties that I pulled up on the MLS yesterday was it in the listing? The site that I just gave you was not in the listing. What the agent had on the listing sheet was Dispo Solutions, and I needed to track it down and figure out that that's what it was. So it was the reo.acceleris.com. So I pulled up a property in Anvil on 34 West Queen Street. It is currently on the market. It's a foreclosure at 104,000. So when I looked at this listing yesterday, it gives you the deadline on here, or it did give the deadline that all offers on this particular property were due by the 14th. But here's where the comments start coming in. Please note, minus $250 from selling commission for technology fee. All offers must be submitted on, and that was a VA foreclosure, so it's www.vrmproperties.com. All agents, including the listing agent, must register as a user, enter the property address, and click on Start Your Offer. So one of the reasons that I'm giving you all the sites now is for you all to get registered on these sites for potential opportunities, so you're not scattering at the last minute as to not knowing what you need to do. Because if you have questions as you're getting yourself registered now, you have the resources where we're available to reach out to us, where we can walk you through the process. If you're doing it on the 11th hour and there's a deadline, like this deadline was 10/14 at 10 a.m. And I can tell you that if you submit and it's after that 10 a.m., you are not looked at. They are very stringent on the cutoff times. It's all electronic, so they know when your offer was submitted. So it's after that deadline, your individuals are not getting looked at.
Nice little property there.
It was a nice little, huh? Are you being sarcastic? Oh, is it?
I recommend, while Helen's looking through her papers.
Yeah.
To be as organized as you possibly can. Have a folder on your desktop where you keep, and I will send out our E&O certificate. You know, have your E&O, have a copy of your license number, like your actual license certificate, because some of them do require you to upload that, right, Helen?
That's correct.
And have all of your REO resources right there, because there's nothing like it. You know, investors are notorious for calling you and saying, hey, I just saw this. Oh, the deadline's today at 1. And then you have to, you know, hope that you can catch Justin or Lori, and that we know where this material is to get it to you in the next 17 minutes or whatever. So don't rely on everyone to be available. Try and be forearmed there and have that all organized.
Secondary question, a lot of the stuff being online, I know there's still paperwork to sign that eventually needs to get in. Is that something we should be having the seller for the buyers sign prior to actually putting it online? Or like-
You're saying your paperwork?
Yeah,
Most of it you won't get. Most of the paperwork that needs to be signed, you won't get until after your particular offer is accepted. It varies, but some of them only give you very basic, like a 1-page. And that's what you submit initially with proof of funds or pre-approval letter.
and that's something kind of a whole buy to it. I'm going on the bidding for them to win.
They'll ask you a lot of, that's a great point that Michael just brought up. A lot of the government sites require deposit. And will ask you when you're inputting the offer if you actually have a copy of the deposit check. So, and it's usually not a regular personal check. It's usually cashier's check or certified funds. And they'll require you to upload that. So there's where it's eliminating random people that potentially could get an offer and then say, oh, I changed my mind. Because they will direct you then on, if that occurs, they'll direct you whether they will refund or allow you to return, or they require you to send in to whoever their title company is. So the other thing is, all of the agencies work with the particular title companies that they also contract out with. And they will entice your purchasers at saying that if you use them to close, that they will pay for the cost of title work. I have never used one of the agency's title companies. I want my own representation. I want somebody that I know runs the title for me, that if there is an issue that I can pick up the phone and call them. I've tried to reach some of the different agencies, title companies, and let me tell you, they're dealing in multiple states with hundreds of properties, and they do not pick up the phone on any kind of consistent basis. So just, you can, inform your client, they ultimately make the final decision, but sometimes saving the X amount in the long run isn't saving the X amount, because if something would happen to slip through the crack, I want to know that the person that I'm dealing with, my title company, is right here, and I can reach out to them and say, hey, this showed up. How did we miss it? And you're responsible to take care of it.
And you're probably not getting enhanced title, which if there was a situation where I would want the enhanced coverage, it would be on a foreclosure. And customer service is not a priority for them.
No, it is not, because they're locked in. They have the contract. They're locked in, and it's typically when they bid contract is for years. So they're locked in for a couple years and, in multiple states. So no, it's not on their top priority to deal with you. So some of the paperwork I just want to go over with you. If there's no questions, I'll talk about some of the paperwork. One of the properties that are on the foreclosure site right now is no offers are considered until the 4th day on the market. These are what you have to acknowledge as far as the buyer and the agent have to acknowledge and fill this out when you're submitting anything. This one just so happens to be a reverse mortgage. And unfortunately, there are going to be, and across the United States, a high volume of reverse mortgages hitting the market, and which is going to create a situation for our seniors. Because when a reverse mortgage is offered to seniors, they offer it typically 3 ways. One is taking a lump sum payment. One is taking the monthly payment. And then there's a third way. What's happening is our senior population is outliving the reverse mortgages that they're taking on their properties, and it's sending them into foreclosure. So here they are at 80 and 90 years old, and they have to vacate their properties. So we're going to see a rise on them, and this is one of the properties. So the paperwork on this says this is a reverse mortgage foreclosure. Only full price or higher offers will be considered. Do not submit offers for less than asking price. Also, it gives you the specifics as far as the specific information that needs to go on the paperwork as far as filling it out. So one thing is, when you're reading the comment section on the foreclosures, make sure you know what paperwork they have listed on the MLS that would need to go into the platforms. What would need to be uploaded also, if this is one of the requirements right here when you're placing an offer on this particular property, that would need to go in with your offer.
Can I chime in quick on reverse mortgages?
Yep.
I've done a lot of estate work, and I have never had a successful listing on a reverse mortgage. In my opinion, they're engineered for foreclosure. And it's really a sad thing. And the people who take out these reverse mortgages are often in financial need, coupled with, they're often in a Medicaid situation later in life. So Medicaid winds up being something that needs to be paid off after that person passes on. And if that Medicaid tab exceeds what is the value in the estate, often they don't even open an estate, and that goes straight to foreclosure as well. So it's it is in my opinion, a last ditch product. And if you could ever do anything to avoid someone entering into a reverse mortgage, I think that should be done. For bad.
Reynolds said they would do it, but I think.
No, it's
Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Tom Selleck.
Right, Magnum.
So one of the properties currently on the market, you Hanover people, or is a townhouse out in, it's on 842 Blossom Drive in Hanover. It is on the auction block currently. And I just picked a property that I could go over with you all. So the listing is 3-bed, 2 baths at 1,580 square feet. Property is vacant. Although the property is vacant, do not enter unless an access code is given. So one of the things that it tells you then down here, when you're looking on the screen, buyer's premium, none applies to this particular property. It is giving a first look, though, to individuals who would be potentially owner occupants on the property. Co-broke is not offered. Cash only, yes. So here you have, it's only listed for owner occupant property purchasers, and they have to pay cash. So the probability that an owner occupant is purchasing that property is probably a small percentage. And then this particular property, they're not giving you interior access for. On another property on the auction block, it says buyer's premium 5% or $2,500, whichever amount is greater. Also not giving you interior access, cash only. And there is a broker co-op available. So that's how they listed on the auction properties, whether they are willing to pay you a commission or not pay you a commission.
So how do you handle these ones that you can't access? You just kind of roll the dice and.
I walk the exterior of the property and I
Okay.
try, yeah, I look in and I try and see if I can get in.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that's left on open, I actually enter into the property.
Balls.
I've had that happen before. You just go in.
It's a
You-
gray area.
yeah, it is.
It's good. Oh, it's a good-
Wait, what?
So-
Did you say you walk into it?
If I can get in, I go in.
Okay.
It's not burning and entering. it's
Yeah.
entering.
I'm like, no, if it's open, it's like open. I'm like, I'm a realtor here, just, I'm looking at the property. Yeah, but, if you're on the outside of the house and you're looking at the system on the outside, if there's a central air system and it's, it is worn, you're allocating for that, your big expenses, you're looking at your windows, you're looking at your roof, you're looking in windows if you can, but if your outside looks like that, your inside, you've got to at least budget for a full-blown rehab. So, because that it's probably outdated, that the original systems are still in the house, and that you want to rather be on the high end of estimating a potential rehab than on the lower end of it. And you know, with the rising costs still going on with materials and all of that, you would absolutely rather be on the high end than the low end. And then it'll be a pleasant surprise when you go in and it's like, oh, you know, they do place pictures online, but we all know what those pictures can sometimes, you know, embellish. You know, they look much, much better than they really are, but they do try and place photos online for most of the foreclosures and the auctions. So. Anybody else have any other questions? There's one other one.
When they're evaluating these offers that you make, do you think that they tend to the same hierarchy that we do, that cash is king, then conventional, don't even bother with VA? You know?
No.
Okay,
So it is not cash is king, it is net number is king.
okay,
So if my net number is higher than your net number, regardless of the type of financing, because they're like, I'm attesting that I have everything that's needed for the individual to be able to close on the property. So they could care less if it's cash over another resource, because, you know, Shannon is sitting here and Shannon closed, you know, my properties. I tried to bump up time frame to get them to close as quick as possible, and I could not move them. Like, we wanted to close within, you know, we were ready within 10 days, and it took us what, 40 on one of, yeah, on one of the transactions. We couldn't get them to move. And we kept saying, you know, what's the issue? You know, we're ready to roll, you know, what's the holdup? And they didn't get responses. We didn't get responses. Right. Yeah. So what I can tell you though is, and I want to like read you a couple of these, but so typically on a HUD foreclosure, and I always refer to the FHA ones, one, probably because that's going to be the highest volume of foreclosures that are going to be hitting this marketplace coming up. And that was always my key niche market. So I knew the numbers. So I knew that if a property was listed at 100,000, I knew that an acceptable offer on that property was $93,000. So when people say about negotiating, when they are first listed on the market, they are not allotted to take lower than a certain percentage. And that is on all of the foreclosures. They have to abide by whatever the guideline was set on that particular property. So if they can negotiate with 10% off and you come in at 15% off, I mean, it's a flat out rejection. But 30 days down the road, if you turn around and place that same offer in, you could have an acceptable offer at that point in time, because the longer the property would sit on the market, the percentage that they are allotted to take decreases. So at that particular moment on resubmitting, you could have an acceptable offer at that amount.
I actually have that happen, so it does happen.
So what I can tell you also though about the FHAs, if they have a listing and it hasn't sold within that first 40 days, it goes into a reduction. When the reduction happens, the percentage drops. Not only does the price drop, but the percentage that they are allotted to take also drops too. So now you're in an area that it dropped to $90,000 and I can take off 13% off of that $90,000 offer and have an acceptable offer. So once the price reduction happens, its first offer in typically is the offer that's taken. So if you're watching a particular offer and or a particular property and it goes through a reduction, and this happens typically, the reductions typically happen on Fridays. So I put my offer in first thing Monday morning, offers are taken. And you know by typically early afternoon on Monday whether your offer was accepted or not.
So if you see a property in the same area get reduced, you know that yours can be reduced as well, your offer.
Correct.
Okay.
And I also know that if I'm the first offer in, that I'm typically the one that would be the acceptable offer. So they'll take first offer in on Monday. So I always watch, like, you know, and did you, yeah. Yeah,
I think, the market for these will, I guess, what do you think it would be? Like, do you think you'll actually have a chance for them to drop and negotiate? That time we might be doing that.
I think that depending on the pricing points of the properties and how they bring them out. If they bring them out in their as-is conditions, like they should, pricing wise, I think that you'll have great opportunities in the first round to get, because I think that the pricing of the properties will be priced accordingly to market. And there'll be a good portion between your as-is price and what the ARV is going to be. Yep. So, and that's another reason that I'm trying to give you all as much information as possible, because I really do think it's going to be a great opportunity for investors purchasing these properties. They're going to be positioned, you know. One of the other reasons that I encourage you all to go to the meetups and meet the investors out there, because I believe that these properties are going to be opportunities where you can be placing cash offers for your investors, doing quick closings, and creating your own niche market here coming up for 2023. So it's kind of all tying together as far as the training and what I've been like recommending for you all to get in there and be a part of. Because if you're like searching for, you don't have that niche market, but you're looking for a niche market, here's an opportunity that you can excel at. And the other thing is, you do not have to be the listing company to list a government property. Anybody has the right to market a government property. So, just
Go
so you
on.
know, yeah.
How does that?
So yeah, so they give any opportunity. If the company down the road is the actual listing agent, they give anybody ample opportunity to market their properties to potentially bring a buyer. So there's no stipulation that I would have to reach out to the list agent to say, can I market your property? Because the government gives you access to be able to do that.
So that means marketing on, sharing it on Facebook, et cetera, not putting it in the MLS.
Not putting it in the MLS, but you can put it out there as if it's your own listing and don't have to get consent from the other agent. Yeah. So you can build your own platform potentially on.
And how do you know that these are government-owned properties as opposed to a lender-owned property?
In the comment or in the owner of record. So in your owner of record, on these properties, if it just says owner of record, then pull up and see if there are any sheets listed up on the MLS. To give you the bank, or I know there's some credit unions and, you know, other ones listed in there currently. But you'll know if it's the Fannie Mae and the Freddie Macs, because they are listed as the owner down in the comments or down on where it says owner on your MLS sheet. So these two sheets for properties that are currently in the MLS, all offers must be submitted by the buyer's agent via offersubmission.com. It gives you the ID number, which you would need to place the offer. No paperwork required until terms accepted. So you want to make sure that you read the remarks section for agents. Buyer pays 300 fee at closing. 10-day exposure period. PNC Bank prefers that properties receive a minimum of 10 days on the market before considering any offers. So it's always giving you the stipulations of expectations in those comments section. Make sure that you read This one is offers are taken on propoffers.com, $175 fee for the online offer submission platform. And this one is actually saying enter at your own risk. Do not disturb neighbors. And please review the docs that are listed prior to going into the property. Did you
So-
have?
Representing buyers in these is, one specialty. What can you do to position yourself to get these listings? Or what kind of competencies can you gain? What kind of training can make you more appealing as a listing agent to these foreclosure outlets?
So it's the government entities require a long application process. So they will announce, because they have to announce when there's a bidding period open for companies that wish to place a contract or a potential contract to become a marketing representative for them. And that's extensive. That's like, I think the contracts that I used to fill out were at least 15 pages. And they're asking for a lot of experience within handling foreclosures. Your mortgage companies, though, your local individuals, I would contact your REO departments because they are absolutely looking for agents. And if you can address yourself specifically as somebody who has dealt with foreclosures as a listing agent, it could open up a market for you because it tells you on the sheets that they're willing to negotiate. It's either the 5% commission or the 6% commission that is paid, and it's paid at the closing table when the properties are closed also.
So these are relationship-based positions.
They are, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
So
So
if you've never been a listing agent, is there any real opportunity, or is it very hard to get in?
I think that it's persistence, finding out who it is that handles them within a certain, banking, because they're all going to be having them because of, not being released. I think on the 10 properties that were listed on the York MLS under the REO, one was in there by mistake. An agent put it in a or a renovated property listed in there by mistake. So of the other 9 properties listed in there, I did not see a duplicate lender in there as a seller. So there was potentially nine opportunities right there. So it's watching in your area who's putting them up for market and who are they using, and then just reaching out to whoever that lender is. I know there were 2 different credit unions in there. And then other banks and stuff. So it's a lot of opportunity. I think the key is persistence. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody's questions. Do we want to open it up? Does anybody have any questions? Can we take them off mute?
Yeah.
Hey, you're welcome. Whoever's jumping off, I just want to make sure. Is there any information, any questions? Please ask now.
Helen, you're awesome. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to do this.
Oh, absolutely. And then if there's anything moving forward, please just let me know. I'll gladly help. If you need help getting signed up on these sites, let me know and I'll gladly walk through with anybody trying to get listed on there. Or if you have certain specific questions that you're thinking about after the fact, you can reach out to me. It's easier to text me and then I'll get back to you. So, other than that, That's it. I've given you everything that I've got so far. I'll also keep you updated if I hear any changes as far as anything transpiring before the beginning of the year, but this really gives you ample opportunity to get in on these sites and get yourself registered and take advantage of this market that is really, it's going to be a high volume of business coming up in 2023 that you could potentially position yourself to be a part of.
So keep your powder dry. Don't go buy your investment property now. Wait and see what happens.
I'm looking for my next flip. And I have been offered, actually, here's the funny thing, I was at the beach and one of the agents that I know down there, one of the top agents in the area saw I was in town and she sent me a message and she said, hey, I have an off-market property. Would you like to look at it while you're here in town? And I said, absolutely. So I walked this listing that's, probably 3 miles from the beach. And the rehab on the property was like $100,000. But when she told me what the list was going to be on the property, I was like, the numbers don't work. And it is as simple as saying, I know the numbers don't work. And that does not work for me. So within these past 2.5 weeks, I've walked 16 properties, made 2 offers, and I haven't gotten either. But I am not jumping on something moving forward that doesn't make sense for me personally. I have 2 exit strategies now when I'm looking at a property. The one is to continue to do it as a flip. And then the second is if for whatever reason it doesn't sell, that I need to be able to keep it as a rental. So I want to make sure that the numbers absolutely work and there's no crunching going on, that it would flow, as a good cash flow if I had to keep it as a potential rental. So that's what I'm looking at now for myself. And that's what I say to the investors moving forward. The opportunities are going to open. I was sitting here yesterday and I said to Michael, an individual, another wholesaler sent me potential properties. And I was like, oh, the numbers on his properties must be too high because I'm down low on his list. So if I'm getting them, the numbers don't work. And when one was in Windsor, one was in Marietta, and one was in Middletown, and the numbers didn't work. And it's not, moving forward because I need a project right now. I'm not going to force something that doesn't make economic sense for me. So it's a matter of just waiting and, putting it out there that I'm looking and the right opportunity opens up. So, and the Fed's supposed to bump up the interest rates again this week. So if you hadn't heard, they're supposed to make another bump up. So.
75.
Yep.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Hey,
Thank you
girl.
all for taking the time. Thank you all for taking the time to tune in. And thank you all who showed up. Appreciate you all. And we will sign off.
Oh, that was very good.